Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we went over solutions of linear equations and how we determine how many solutions a linear equation has. Today, we're going to go more in depth on linear equations that have one solution. So, our topic of today is solving linear equations. Our learning target. Today, I can solve linear equations with rational coefficients by using DCIS. Let me remind you guys of what DCIS is. D stands for distribute. When we distribute, we take the number outside of the parentheses and multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. You would get 3 times A, which is 3A, plus 3 times 4, which is positive 12. C, combining like terms. What I mean by combining like terms, you look at like terms on the same side of the equation. So if you look at the left side of the equation, you see 3x and positive 2 are not like terms because it's a variable term and a constant. But if you look on the right side of the equation, you can see negative 5 and positive 4 are like terms. So we combine them by adding them together. So you bring down your 3x plus 2, bring down your equal sign, bring down your 6x, and negative 5 plus 4 gives us negative 1. Now I, inverse operation. That means we want to have our variable terms on the opposite side of our constant. So let's first start with our variable terms. I'm going to start with this 3x over here. I want to bring this 3x to the opposite side. The opposite of adding 3x is subtracting 3x, the inverse operation. So you subtract 3x on both sides, and I am left with 6x minus 3x, which is positive 3x. Bring down my plus 2. This cancels out, and I have negative 5 over here. Again, our goal is to have our variable terms. Let me rewrite it over here. So we have 3x plus 2 equals negative 5. Our goal is to have our variable terms on the opposite sides of our constant. So my focus is on this 2 right here. I want to bring it to the opposite side. Since I'm adding 2, my inverse operation will be to subtract. So I'll subtract 2 on both sides. This cancels out because they're additive inverses. Let's remember that vocab. And then we bring down our 3x, bring down our equal signs, and negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7. And our last step, S, solve. So what I mean by solve is we get rid of our coefficient. So we divide 12 on both sides, and we are left with x equals 2. No, this is not the same equation, so do not get confused. All right, let's try some problems. Problem number 1, solve for x. We have 1.5 times negative x plus 2 minus 5 equals x plus 7 minus 2. First step is to distribute. So let me write DCI. That is so sloppy. Let me write DCIS over here. So distribute. I look at my equation to see if I have to distribute anything. And I see I have to distribute this 1.5 into the parentheses. So 1.5 times negative x is negative 1.5x. And 1.5 times positive 2 is positive 3. I bring down my minus 5. Bring down my equal sign, and x plus 7 minus 2. I see I don't have to distribute anymore, so I move on to step number 2. C, which is combining like terms. So I look at the left side of the equation and I see positive 3 and negative 5 are like terms because they're both constants, and I see positive 7 and negative 2 are both like terms because they're both constants as well. I bring down my negative 1.5x. 3 minus 5 gives us negative 2. And I bring down my positive x. And positive 7 minus 2 gives us positive 5. So we add 5. I look at both sides of the equations and I see I have no more like terms. So I move on to I, which is inverse operation. This is a step that a lot of you guys get confused on. So I'm going to emphasize this again. Our main goal is to have our variable terms on the opposite sides of our constants. So I'm going to start with my variable terms. I see this x right here. I want to get it to the other side. So I do that by subtracting x because it's the opposite of adding positive x on both sides. This cancels out because they're additive inverses. Negative 1.5x minus x gives me negative 2.5x. I know that because the coefficient in front of this x here is negative 1. I bring down my minus 2, bring down my equal sign, and I bring down my 5. Now again, our goal was to have our variable terms on the opposite sides of our constants. So I'm going to take this negative 2 and bring it to the other side. Since this is subtracting 2, the inverse operation will be adding 2. So I add 2 on both sides, bring down my negative 2.5x. And then 5 plus 2 gives me positive 7. I'm done with inverse operations, so I move on to solve. So when I solve this, negative 2.5x equals 7. What I do for this step is all I have to do is divide my coefficient on both sides. So it's negative 2.5. Negative 2.5 cancels out, and I have x equals 7 divided by negative 2.5. I'll use my calculator. Oh, okay. I'll use the one on my phone. 7 divided by... And I am left with negative 2.8. So x is equal to negative 2.8. So here's our problem 2 for the day. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.